Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. All right. So, welcome, guys, everybody. To be honest, for this episode, inspired from the previous episode, in the previous episode, I got a realization that it makes sense for me to speak to the future generations. So in this decade of giving these talks, and if we consider time as in past, present, future, I've been speaking to the present. And I thought, all right, let's speak to the future. So this episode is me trying to figure out, brainstorm, and in some sense figure out how the structure of the next episodes will be. So, all right, let's try to solve this problem. So how can someone, let's say in 2024, speak to someone in 2124? Let's pose a basic question. It would be in some sense, well, first of all, we need some sort of time machine telephone. So I can envision, if time travel is part of the destiny of the human species, this time travel will first happen as if from video and then audio. Let's say audio first, then video, and then eventually building up to the point of teleportation, right? So if I were to think, all right, I can try to somehow answer this. Okay, so if I'm wondering about how does a person in 2024 speak to someone in 2124, if we just want to have that person speak one-way communication, that's pretty much what I'm doing. So the solution of speaking to the future generations is easy, but communicating back and forth with them is the difficulty, right? Because I can see my voice in cyberspace echoing longer, just being longer than my actual lifetime. So one approach is to think of someone in 1924. Yeah. So it would be the same thing of how would someone in 1924 communicate to someone in 2024? Well, one answer obviously is that some sort of technological breakthrough is required. But if there is no technological breakthrough, the person who, like for example, me in 2024, I don't have a time machine to go to 2124 and speak in person to those people, right? But what I have is a mind, an inner sight, an inner space, an inner realm where I can fathom the progression of what is here now. So what that means is our brains give us access to simulated futures. And keep in mind, today's episode is more me brainstorming. It's not per se a lecture. So, I'm in 2024. The privilege of my lifetime. Starting from 1991 up to 2024. Now, technically, our human mind is already in the future. The issue is that the body hasn't followed up with the inventions yet. What that means is for all the people, let's say in the future hearing, in 2024, we could see ahead. Okay? We could fathom the future. And I'm someone in 2024, okay? And fathoming 100 years isn't that much of a big deal, right? So the mind jumps ahead than 100 years to like what's it gonna look like 1,000 years. Like the sci-fi novel I've written is set in the year 5025. And the beings in that sci-fi universe are divided between the futurists and the traditionalists. The traditionalists are those who in some sense are still entities in time. They have a finite relationship with their world. The futurists have an infinite relationship with their world. So that includes, let's say, beings that are space, eternal beings. In the first sci-fi novel, I've just went all out. Anyways, so many dudes. It's like there's angels and like freaking AI. You know. So, anyways, if a person now was to visualize the future, they would wonder about what would happen to the human experience. Okay? Now, what is the human experience? The human's experience has a relationship with objectivity. It has a relationship with subjectivity. And it has a relationship with the whole space where it's all happening. This is technically, you can say, unknown observer, but it's actually your soul. Your soul is watching your mind move your body. So, anyways, now when I think about objectively 100 years from now what it's going to be. I know that there's going to be progressions in anti-gravity. I know that transportation systems are going to improve. I know that new technologies will come that will replace walking, you know. In my sci-fi, I envisioned the jetpack civilization, but the jetpacks weren't fire powered because they would burn your feet. Like, so I gotta visualize how to speak to all of our great grandkids from the past, from their past. So we are in the information age. As things speed up, most likely identity becomes transparent. I'd give it maybe like 500, no, 500 years is too much. I'll give it 150 years. In 150 years, there's going to be completed, how do I say it? There's going to be androgynous factions. There's going to be a new categorization of what it means to be intelligent in reality. You're looking at holograms walking in the street. You're looking at clones of multiple, like multi-bodied individuals. And I do not know what the desire patterns of the future will be, but I have an inclination that their desire patterns will not be individual. So think of it this way, there's different turns the world can take, right? And so what are we looking at here? I'll start from earlier. Let's not go 150. Let's not go like year 5000. 2024. What can we expect? Right now, what has happened is that online we have a membership system. Okay. So the world is being pulled towards a membership-based life. Okay. Today you're paying for gym memberships. Tomorrow you might have to pay for memberships so they don't shut down your body or your organs or part of your. You understand, when the human body gets involved with technology, it's very difficult that if the expectations of technology or the expectations of biological life should be for that, right? So I would say that there needs to be, so if I was to speak to just a little bit further ahead, give it 50 years in the future, you need to find protocols and for everybody, like I understand, it's daunting that there's going to be super intelligent AI or a technology that's going to open its eyes, but you have to find a way to make it so convenient that we use waves to connect the brain to technology. What that means is, rather than putting a chip in your brain, I don't know why I've seen this. In the future, when you want to get into virtual reality, imagine there's groups of people in the bar, right, at some futuristic bar, like let's say 50 years, 100 years from now or something. And in that bar, two people, they get hot heads and they start fighting. Right? They want to fight. At that point, it won't be a physical fight. All violence would most likely have been pushed to cyberspace. So those two individuals will just go into two booths, Okay, and those booths, there isn't a wire connecting to their brain. It's as if there's waves. So they're going in, sitting in a room, and because the brain works with waves, the waves that are hitting the brain, they kind of automatically connect the brain to that. So I'm telling you, we can't enter the, like, to enter the brain, it gives something but is taking something bigger. So be careful about that for the future generations, that you need to find protocols, so that the membership system does not enter the biological body. That's effed up, right? And in the future, there may be even agencies that they kind of, excuse me that I'm saying it this way, but they may resurrect human beings, like damaged human beings, and make them cyborgs, but their cyborgs components are owned by companies. So that's what I'm saying. We gotta be careful about this, and the species has to have a sort of ethical consideration of how soon we want to convert into non-organic entities, right? Because when it comes to the future legacy of humanity, I have fathomed two types of extinctions, and of course we're inside an existential system that has a system admin beyond the causal limitations, so I'm not too concerned, but I'm just telling you that it seems that there are two types of extinction. These two types of extinction, I have termed it an inner extinction and an outer extinction. So what I would tell the future generations is simply this. So you need to protect yourself from corporate takeover of the biological body. All right, that's one thing. But that's like early future child's play. There's more intense stuff gonna happen. Another thing I can see after this is that we got to be concerned about a surveillance state. Now, let me say one point before the surveillance state. We need to have very smart people. Make sure that they culturally engineer the culture, and I don't care if you're an evil, good person, but if you don't do this, the shit's gonna be even more effed up than good and evil. What I'm trying to say is that you have a population where its intelligence is natural, okay? It's going at a natural pace. Now, based on the interest of the individual, the intelligence can increase based on their own fascination in their own life. So the thing I was saying to be cautious and we need to have some sort of thing is that human intelligence has been naturally progressing, but when we can connect a chip to a human being's brain and their IQ, let's say, jumps from 120 to like 150, okay, or 160, what we're gonna have, the types of problems we're gonna have is gonna be way worse than AI destroying us, okay? Because the issue is that human beings are gonna be like, wait a minute, how are we gonna? You know what's gonna happen? Pretty much those. Right now, there's a financial gap between, let's say, the upper class and the lower class of societies. But when that happens, there's gonna come an intelligence gap, and when that intelligence gap comes, the lower aspects of society will fall so behind that I don't know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a new era of civilized tyranny. But I also believe nature and our creator, the one and only, has created backup programs that if the human being becomes too smart in this world, it actually goes insane. Why? Because it'll notice it is so different from others, it cannot relate. So be careful of this. In the future, I'd give it, honestly, I'd give it a 120 again, 150 years. Pretty much, there's going to become a bigger intelligence gap. All right. And human beings are going to, it's going to be like a cheat code. All right. Now, you don't believe in the year 5025 what I've written that has happened to technology and humans. In my sci-fi novel, human beings have ascended to the level of angels, so robots and AI are all living like human beings. Human beings, they can't even be seen by AI. They're a higher dimension. Only the richest robots can see them. And the most enlightened. You're asking me what an enlightened robot would be? An enlightened robot would be a robot that has original code. So, I can see technology infuse with man. And I don't know why, but I've said this before. There's times where I felt I was born 400 years too soon. Why? Because my inner realms can simulate a future life that I'm living. And the future life is very different. Everything is way by a whim. So it would be equivalent to just like how you can instantly raise your hand by just wanting to. This same sort of interface and relationship is going to happen with the outer realms. And the way that human beings will experience a sort of administrative luxury is that they will self-simulate. So what that means is this is far further in the future, give it 1,000 years, but what you're gonna see is that no more biological humans, human beings that are born biologically, they will not be living biologically anymore. You know why? Because there's the option for them to go and preserve their bodies. Okay, I've seen visions of this. Pretty much, if you go that far into the future, you're gonna see, like a skyscraper. Imagine horizontally in the air, giant rectangular buildings just floating in the air. And little kids are gonna be like, "Mommy, Daddy, you know, what is that?" And the parents are gonna be like, "Those are people. Those are the upper class, the rich people." Why? Let me tell you why. Because if you had an option of preserving your body and experiencing a simulated live stream of reality, you would do that. So that's going to be the cocooning era. Okay, the cocooning era is going to be the era where human beings are going to realize their lifespans become longer if they're in just some nutrition pod and they don't get the troubles, the reality doesn't destroy them, right? So pretty much it would be very strange. It would be as if Pretty much you'll get the same experience as you are now, but a part of you is not here, so you will feel a hollowness in this world. Okay? This is for the future generations. I'm giving it, let's say, 500 to 1,000 years. Okay? Where the body is going to go. You don't even understand. For kids, it's going to be another thing. In hospitals, they can pretty much what it is in the future, you're going to be able to live a virtual life that is the live stream of now. So you won't technically need your body and you can still live in civilization. But the experiential accuracy would be a bit low resolution, right? So in the future, I'm telling you, the wealthy are gonna actually leave the world first. They're not gonna leave it in the sense they're gonna stop living in the world first, because in their private servers they can act like gods. You know, they can just be like the king of their worlds. So right now, for example, you know, let's say you saw Steve Jobs and he was running Apple, okay? Or you see Bill Gates, they have Macintosh. Those guys have a company, right, with thousands, like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of employees and whatnot, all right? Now, I want you to think about it. In the future, it's the opposite. The employees don't come from the outside world. The originator of the entity, whether it's a business entity or whatnot, will in some sense be a server in itself. So everything will start from the server of an individual mind. So the backup is that person's mind, right? So right now right now, like, if you come and talk to me, we can exist somewhat in each other's minds as ideas. But this I'm talking about is going to be access to multi-servers. So what does that mean? Like, we haven't reached that point yet, but they will reach the point of multi-leveled selfhood. Right now our levels are like objective reality, subjective reality, and then the solar reality, which is the unknown observing witness of it. Let's go further. So this is what I would say to those human beings inside. So I said something to those human beings inside the cocoon era. Pretty much as we go more towards the future, they're going to live more as minds. Right now, it's very old school to be embodied. Of course, these are probabilities, right? Keep that in mind. God knows best. God's decree can change it. This is just what I see. If I was a telescope, this is as far as I can see. So anyways, for those beings in the cocooning era, when you get bored of power, you're going to want to be a human being again, so might as well just be natural from the beginning. You see, right now we're at a point where every person in the species, they have a certain intelligence level, they have a certain strength level. Do you understand? But imagine in the future, there comes infinite services. You connect your brain to something and you suddenly, like Neo no Kung Fu. You're suddenly, your body, you have the most healthiest body in 2 weeks because it's reprogrammed to be that way. Right? So I'm saying there's going to come a time where all the things that we want now The future generations will get, and it will become mundane for them. So to prevent that mundaneness for them, they have to realize that life is not about control. Ultimately, for the free will up to level 2, the level of the body, level of the mind, and then the level of the soul, up to level 2 it is. Up to level 2, your character trying to control your destiny in a story. Pretty much what's gonna happen is biological health. Give it 200 years, everybody's gonna be healthy. The issue is going to be the health of mind. The health of mind is service oriented. It's gonna be a bit strange. This is how I fathomed it. So imagine right now, they say technology is gonna take our jobs. Okay, AI right now is doing what artists can do, is doing what editors can do, is doing what researchers can do, is doing what writers can do. You see, the technology is slowly being like, I can do this, I can do that, right? So eventually this will reach a point where human beings have to decide if they want artificial intelligence to be involved in human politics, which would be a point where artificial intelligence will pretty much come up, with policies, ingenious policies, and human beings just select the policies, and there's going to be one person like a queen, a symbolic human being that goes and, interacts with that AI system. I wanted to go somewhere else with this. Oh yeah, so you're living more and more as a mind. Right now we're experiencing one biological body, and we have this notion that we have one individual mind. So multiple bodyhood, that era is going to come before multiple mindhood. You know what that means? That means you're going to be sitting somewhere, whether it's a cloned version of you, whether it's an android version of you, or whether it's a hologram version of you. You're going to experience six or seven, imagine, based on your selection, right? So let's say you experience like 10 bodies, including your own. So you're not just responsible for the sight that you get from one biological body, perhaps it will be multiple. So what that means is I'm like a human being in 2024 telling the species that if our mind moves through cinematically, it functions way more faster than through language, right? I'm just like waking up the species to the cinematic movement of mind, in the sense that you remember films way better than like paragraphs on a page. And Oh yeah. So the thing I wanted to say was that if AI takes all of our jobs, the only thing it can't take is creative work. That means creating things anew that it can't fathom. Okay. So creative input and also reproduction, and that's it. We're pretty much going to be artists having sex all over the universe. Excuse me, yeah, having sex all over the universe in the sense that we're going to overpopulate everything because there's enough room. There is no shortage of room. There's shortage of homes. So in that phase, human beings are just gonna be laid back. They're gonna experience a level of probably universal romance. You know, one of my biggest fantasies is to, go on a date on a space station with like floating pizza in there. I've even visualized, ahead. All right. So AI takes all of our jobs. We are rendered artists and pretty much have sex all over the universe because reproduction and creative input become the focus. We'd be ushered in an era of universal romance. The romance with the stars will begin on a species level. It's still soon. It's going to happen when the space stations, pretty much when housing goes into the atmosphere. Can you imagine? A real estate agent's like, all right, man, I'm gonna pick you up at at Sky Tower 2 at like 9 in the morning, and by 12 we'll get to the Sky property. you know and so this real estate agent comes with like expensive looking spaceship, and it's like, yes sir, let me give you a tour. you know and the person, while driving to that sky city with their space car or something, right, spaceship car, they're gonna be like, yeah man, this area of the sky, there's this level of intense density, there's this amount of like lightning storms, this amount of thing, da 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 da. And the person's like, oh, is the house rust proof? And the real estate agent would be like, sir, we haven't used metal. It's a new technology now called, neo metal. Nettle. Neotal, I don't know. I don't know why, but I feel like the same humor I displayed is the same humor that caricature of a fan, like it was like there's like this heavy metal like fan, right, like a heavy metal person who loves heavy metal, and then there's a fan in the picture, like an actual metal fan that says, I'm a metal fan too. Anyways, it's silly. So guys, please, I can't answer all these questions in the comment section at once. All right. So far, going along with this being a brainstorming session of me trying to fathom how to speak to the future, one way I've got an answer to that is to some degree wonder about what technologies they will have, how those technologies will influence the human psychology behaviorally, you know? Oh yeah, I totally forgot to mention, in the future there's going to be sectors. Oh my god. So what does that mean? There's going to be like a sober state. There's going to be like a I don't want to say like a 180 glass like dome, like half of a glass dome, and that's like a sector where only sober people are allowed, but I do feel that the motivational structure of inspiring the human being to go and live a more advanced life. So you see, right now I have access to a future that I have influenced and I have not. The future of my own influence is a bit different, okay? Because I am envisioning that I have a strategy. Anyways, so when it comes to these sectors, it's very similar to, what's that movie called? That movie called Out of Time, right? So it's similar to that. These sectors are, civilization will become sectorized, all right? Why? Because the human intensity to live will become way more intense. Also, the evolution of all buildings is into spaceships. Now let's try to fathom the political structure at that point. So if you look at the current nationalism that's going on, pretty much we've taken a rock and we've colored sections of it. All right, so pretty much we've taken this one completed thing and separated it. Okay. So what we have done is that turned it into what am I saying? All nations are sub-nations of the nation of humanity. The nation of humanity is going to issue a sort of citizenship based on your human position, based on your human form. That means if you're a member of nation of humanity, you are in some sense protected by overall, how do I say it? I'm pretty much telling you, we're playing costume games as a species with nationalism. They're all going to be sub-nations of one completed nation, right? And that one completed nation is necessary in case if there is interstellar diplomacy. So if we have actual alien immigration in the future. The idea is not that there's a lot of our future is inaccessible, it's that it becomes accessible if the antenna is shifted correctly, which means that it's the way that human beings are living that suggests if there is room in your life. Okay, for example, something I didn't understand, that it's like you can get to know a person, but if you don't have space in your life for them, in some sense, it's like meaningless, right? And that space has to come in some sense as if it's an investment in a project. Okay, but it's not just a project, it's a soul with unknown variables. Like, that's the beautiful thing about humans. You can't expect you cannot, like, you can for some humans, right? Like, you can expect like how they will behave. But there's the joy of it is, regardless of how much knowledge we get, we still want to go somewhere where things that we can't expect can happen. The unknown can happen. So anyways, let me close my eyes and actually try talking to them. Let's see what happens. So I'll just narrate what I'm cinematically seeing while my eyes are closed. So what I'm doing now is I'm visualizing this moment, and I am letting my mind fast forward it like a film, and then I'm going to stop it somewhere. Okay, I stop the mind and I'm seeing the future of cups. So a subtle form of a cup is going to come in the future where its bottom base is sensitive to how right now in the space-time continuum it all constitutes lines. So what does that mean? That means right now, imagine I'm sitting in a square room, okay, in a square room. I want you to imagine every part of that room is filled with lines, okay? And these lines have an energetic, very subtle energetic imprint, okay? Presence, position. So what's going to happen is humanity is going to realize that as it can convert a surface, the back of a surface, to be so subtle, it can stand on these. So what does that mean? In the future, people, like, let's say you have a cup in your hand, you're gonna turn on its bottom end, and you're gonna constantly try to put it in the air until you find those lines and it can stay there. And once it stays there, you can let it go, it stays there. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, so in the 2500s, I just paused the video again, the inner film. You're gonna see speeches by beings that are, how do I say it? It's like three beings as one. So the first speech is gonna happen like that. It's crazy. So oh my God. In the year 2500, we're gonna be pulled towards ability. What does that mean? That means our liking of others is based on their ability, not what they present. And so to, in some sense, bring into politics a three-bodied individual, that's going to be next level. Do you know what that would mean? That would mean three beings, three people. Imagine like two more versions of me, and every time I speak, we all speak at once, and I can transition. I can transition from one body to the other. It's so weird. One thing I want to say about that cup era, chairs and tables are not going to have legs anymore. This might sound bizarre, but they're going to be able to climb the air in the future. People are going to be like, what are you saying? I'm telling you, we're going to be able to climb the air. Somebody said it, 2024. Of course, guys, God knows best. What does that mean? That means I'm sharing probabilities. Um, People might say teleportation. The experience of teleportation, we're all having all the time. Like if I tell you, remember when you were 10, and you close your eyes and you remember that you've just been teleported. So teleporting in regards to the mind is no big deal. It's the body that we can't teleport. Instantaneous movement. What does that mean? It means your feeling becomes the location, not what you input or what you see. You can shift into to and from realities emotionally. And so it could also reverse. Human communication, I envisioned it at some point, it's equivalent to throwing holograms at each other. So in the future, if I want to speak to you, I just throw something at you, a hologram light, and it just goes into your suit, and you know exactly what I said to you. You know, what I'm trying to say is there's going to come playful alternatives to communication. Do you understand what communication is? We think we're an individual speaking, but in reality, it's behind your eyes. It's a world. So every person you see, more than they're an individual, their mind is an individual. They are a response, a reaction to a reality. Anyways, folks, um, anyways, thank you for listening. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the world, Lord of the worlds. There is a higher power here. I didn't mention anything about too much about the technological surveillance state, but we are already in a natural surveillance state. We are also in a divine surveillance state. The technological surveillance state is just going to be surveilling, humanized conduct to some degree. Unless we reach that point where there's robots roaming the earth as sort of like first aid robots. So imagine somebody gets lost in a forest in the future. And the bear's about to attack him, and randomly there's a first aid like robot, a robot scout just walking, and suddenly like a robot notices the bear about to attack the human and just prevents it. Anyways, thank you for listening. God bless us all. Rise, mankind, rise in the sight of the one and only.